Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and welcome to Congregation Shereth Israel. I wish that we could welcome you in person in our sanctuary soon. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. But today, behind Rabbi Phelps, you can see our beautiful sanctuary where Cantor, Toby, Glaser, and Jonathan Dimmick, our music director, are actually together leading us in prayer. So we welcome all of you to this very important morning. Not only is it Shabbat, which is important every week, but it is the morning of Kai Denmark's bar mitzvah. And we welcome you, Andy and Yuka and Kai, to be with us and to lead us on this morning when you become an official adult in our community. So give me your best morning smile. There we go. Awesome. We are thrilled to have you and thrilled to learn with you and really look forward to a wonderful Shabbat service. So I'd like to begin by inviting Andy and Yuka to present Kai with his talit, something that Yuka chose that's very special for this day.
So I chose this talit based on values that Kai has, namely shop locally, and also just natural materials and something understated, because I think that's very much his personality. And the really nice coincidence is when I went to Dainu at the JCC, I met two other families that have a Japanese parent and a Jewish parent. So I created a mini multicultural family community there. So that was a nice happenstance. Here you go, Kai. See, it's not.
I'm supposed to say.
Oh, am I supposed to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
And then, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahitateh b'tzitzit.
Amen.
And you also chose a really beautiful talit, Yuka. So Mazel Tov, as you now wear your talit, you are prepared to lead us, just as your dad did a few years ago on the day of his bar mitzvah. This morning, you lead us in your religious garb, surrounded by your tzitziot. So we'll begin our service with Ma Tovu, how wonderful it is to be in our tent together. And over these last 16 months, our tent has grown and grown and grown to be able to expand, to allow us to be a community wherever we are located. So on this morning, we create community as we join in this beautiful melody with the Cantor.
ישראל, מה טובו, מה טובו, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, ואני ברוב חסדך, אבוא ביתך, אשתך והיכל קודשך ביראתך, מה טובו, מה טובו, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, אדוני אהבתי מאוד ביתך, ומקום משכן כבודך, משכן כבודך, ואני אשתך חבר, ואכרע אברך לפני אדוני, עושי מה טובו, מה טובו, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, מה טובו, מה טובו, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, אני תפילתי לך, אדוני את רצון, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת אישך. מה טובו, מה טובו, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, מה טובו, מה טובו, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, משכנותיך ישראל.
How good it is for us to be together on this morning. We call out with every instrument available to us, with all kinds of different musical instruments, including our own voices. We say, thank you, God, and hallelujah. The words of Psalm 150, we praise you, and we thank you for the privilege to have gratitude for everything in our world, including our community.
Hallelujah, 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 el bekocho, hallelujah, bikia ozo, hallelujah, bekorotav, hallelujah, kerov kudo, hallelujah. Hallelujah, בנמל וכינור, הללוהו בטוב ומחול, הללוהו במינים ועוגב, הללוהו, 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 הללוהו בצלצל נשמה, בצלצלת רואה, כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה, 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 הללויה.
You're invited to stand for words of Baruch Hu as we call in response with the Cantor, acknowledging that we are indeed ready to be a prayer community.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. יאי די 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 יאי די 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 די.
We continue with words of Yotzer Or. We thank God every morning for the sun that comes up, that warms our world and continues in an endless cycle of day, turning to night, giving us rest, and morning again to build community.
Baruch atah Adonai Elohim ובורא את הכל, יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום, שלום ובורא את הכל.
God's love for us community is visible everywhere, and in the giving of Torah especially, as we learn how to live lives that require us to repair the world. We celebrate the Torah on this weekend as we head into the holiday of Shavuot, and it is through the giving of the Torah that we know how much God cares about our community and about us having the instruction to build a world of justice. Ahava Rabbah.
והערננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש ולא ניכלם ולא ניכשל לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוריכנו כמאיר לארצנו, כי אל פה ישועות אתה והנבחת בקרב תנו שמך הגדול סלע באמת, להודות לך יחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. Right, Mr. Bar Mitzvah.
You may be seated, and we continue with these words. The second part of the Shema that instructs us to teach all of the words of Torah to our children. Kai will lead us in the Ve'ahavta, representing all of the learning that he has done to become an adult in our community.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אלוהים מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בם בשבתך בביתך ובלתך בדרך ושופך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Yasher Koach. Beautiful chanting.
Beautiful. We have a family.
No, sorry, that's no. We will move on. If you would like to provide us with a reading before the Micha Mocha.
A reading before Micha Mocha. I would love to.
Frame that. Or we can move straight into the Micha Mocha.
No, I want to read my favorite reading.
Please, yes.
Micha Mocha. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Uvtechnu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Go'alenu, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gahal Yisrael.
Prepare ourselves now for the central part of our prayer service, the Amidah. I invite you to stand if you are able to, and to set your intention for what you want to say. We begin by asking God to open up our lips so that we can actually call out.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agir tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yadadai-dai-dai, 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 yadadai-dai-dai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך? מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו מתיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהייך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We take some moments for silent prayer. שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
We now prepare for the Torah service. This is a really exciting and pivotal moment in our service because this is the moment where literally in a second and also symbolically, we get to pass the Torah into Kai's hands. Kai, this is the moment where you are coming into your inheritance as a Jew of the Torah. It's your sacred text. It's yours to own, yours to understand, yours to question, and yours to teach to others. So it's really exciting to celebrate that moment with you. We're going to do a little bit of a literal representation of this experience in just a moment. I think your parents have gone off camera briefly to retrieve the Torah, and we're going to invite them. And also, I believe your grandmother, Refna, is there, and I believe she will begin the process of passing the Torah along. So. Yes, there she is, and there's the Torah. Hello, Shabbat Shalom. So please, whenever you are ready, you may go ahead and pass the Torah exactly to your son, who will pass it to his son, and our cantor will begin our music for the Torah service.
כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני בירושלים, ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. Shema. We have our Shema now, Kai. Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlul Adonai iti, ונרוממו שמו יחדיו.
We, in just a moment, will be hearing from, in fact, a couple of different parts of the book of Numbers, of Bamidbar, including some of this week's parasha, which is Parashat Bamidbar, and also Parashat Chukat, because of the craziness of the pandemic, Kai has prepared readings from both of those parashot that he has learned over the course of his long and diligent training. So we're going to get to hear him read a little bit from each, but they both belong to the book of Bamidbar. They both belong to this book that starts with the question of counting. It's called Numbers because one of the first things that happens is a census is taken. And so part of the message of this whole book is that everybody counts. Everybody in the community matters. Everybody's view matters. Every individual's uniqueness matters. So it's going to be a real pleasure to get to hear from Kai all about his own uniqueness and his own unique take on Judaism today. So please go ahead and undress the Torah for us.
And we'll have our book there as well.
Why'd you move this?
Beautiful.
Perfect. And we will call to Torah, first of all, Hrefna Denmark for our first Aliyah. Ta'amod Chanal Aliyah La Torah. Whenever you're ready, yes.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch atah Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai El Moshe B'midbar Sinai Be'ohel Moed Ve'had LaChodesh Hasheni B'shana Hasheni L'tzetam Me'eretz Mitzrayim Lemor. So et Rosh Koadat B'nei Israel Lemishpahotam Lavet Avotam B'mispar Shemot Kol Zahar Legulgalotam Mi Ben Esrim Shana V'mala Kol Yotzei Tzava V'Yisrael Tifkadu Otam Letzivotam Ata Ve'aharon Be'ivhem yihiyu ish ish lamate ish rosh levet avotav hu.
Yasher Koach.
Beautiful chanting Yasher Koach, and our blessing after Torah, Hrefna.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'she olam nata brishenu Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Beautiful
Amen.
chanting. Thank you so much, Hrefna.
Feel free to have a hug if you'd like. And feel free also, Hrefna, to go ahead and stand on the other side of Kai as we invite up the next person for the Aliyah.
Yes, for our second Aliyah, we have Asami Hachuma and Andrew Denmark. Ya'amdo lebin Hillel Aliyah la Torah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai El Moshe ve'el Aharon lemor. Al tafritu et shevet mishpahot hakahati mitoch halavim vezo asu lahem vehayu velo yamutu begishtam et kodesh hakodashim Aharon uvanav yavo ושמו אותם איש איש על עבודתו ואל מסעו, ולא יבוא לראות קבלה את הקודש ומתו.
Yasher koach. Amen. And our blessing after.
Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you so much. Beautiful chanting again to Kai and his family. For our third aliyah, we would like to invite a window. There we are. We are inviting our Thor Denmark via Zoom. Ya'amod Chaim ben Hillel aliyah la Torah. Whenever you are ready, Thor.
Baruch et Adonai hamborach.
Baruch Adonai hamavarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. וידבר אדוני אל משה ואל אהרון לאמור. זאת חוקת התורה אשר ציווה אדוני לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל, ויקחו אליך פרה אדומה תמימה, אשר אין בה מום, אשר לא עלה עליך אור, ונתתם אותה אל אלעזר הכהן, והוצאת אותה אל מחוץ למחנה, ושחט אותה לפניו.
Beautiful chanting. And our blessing after.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you so much.
You can give a
And,
digital hug if you'd like.
Yes, digital hugs all around.
Well, in this moment, while we have the Torah out in our midst, before we go to our final aliyah, we understand this to be an especially auspicious time to ask for healing for anyone in our community who is in need of healing of mind or body or spirit. And we think especially today for healing of Shoshana Chana Asher, Ilana Bat Avraham V'Sarah, Michael Enery and Michael Gaines, William Kurian, Leonid Londrarenko, Carolyn Resnikoff, Chris Romano, Agnes Rothblatt, Carolyn Olson-Stellman, and Sam Weiner. And to those names, we add any names that you may be holding in your hearts today, anyone you are concerned for their well-being. Please feel free to say those names in your own homes or even put them in the chat. And in honor of all of those folks and to bring them healing, we sing now words of Mishaberach.
Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We have arrived at the pivotal moment of formally calling Kai to the Torah. You might think we had done that already, but in fact, the greatest honor, even though it's a tremendous amount of work, is not reading from the Torah, it's blessing the Torah. It's taking your place as a member of the Jewish community by uttering those words of blessing. So if we were all together in the sanctuary, I would have us all doing a little, drum roll at home, but feel free to do a little drum roll on whatever you have in front of you at home.
And Kai, if you want to go and just take just step off to the side. Let's call you to the Torah properly, so we can have some distance. We can have a nice little walk on.
There we go. We'll have an actual entrance to the Torah. Very nice.
So we call
drum roll on our hearts,
and on our drums. Ya'amod Yosef ben Leb l'aliyah laTorah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
ולקח אזור בטבל במים, איש טהור והיזה על האוהל ועל כל הכלים ועל הנפשות אשר היו שם ועל הנוגע בעצם או בהלל או במת או בקבר. והיזה הטהור על הטמא ביום השלישי וביום השביעי, והטעו ביום השביעי, והיבס בגדיו, ורחץ במים, וטהר בערב. ואיש אשר יטמא ולא יחטא ונכרתה הנפש ההיא מתוך הקהל, כי את מקדש אדוני טימא נידה, לא זורק עליו טמא הוא. והייתה להם להוקת עולם, ומזה מהנידה יהבס בגדיו, והנוגע במי הנידה יטמא עד הערב. והוא אשר יגבו הטמא יטמא, והנפש הנוגעת תטמא עד הערב.
יישר כוח.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Beautiful
Yasher
chanting. Long aliyah and very, very wonderful. Excellent.
That was beautifully done, Kai. And now Kai and Andy are going to go ahead and hold up the Torah so that all of us can see it. And then they will dress the Torah to set it to the side, having done its job of educating us for today.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. Yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai.
now, Kai, we invite you to share your own words of Torah with us.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you all for coming. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this process and all my learning. Normally, people have one Torah portion, but due to plans being changed and dates being moved, thanks COVID, I have two, one for my original date and one for this week. By the way, I think it's great that even in this strange time in history with the global pandemic and all, Judaism teaches that we never cancel a celebration. So I'm happy to have my bar mitzvah, even if it's a little different. As I was saying, my Torah portions are Bamidbar and Hukat, both from the book of Numbers. I chanted from both parshiot, but since Bamidbar is the parsha for this week, I wanted to share some of my learning from this portion. To give you some context, I would like to first explain what my portion is about. Bamidbar is both the name of this book of the Torah and the name of the first Torah portion. It means in the wilderness, but interestingly, it is mistranslated as Numbers because of the census taken at the beginning. The Israelites had just been released from captivity in Egypt and found themselves in the wilderness. They had to build a new life for themselves after the slavery they endured in Egypt. They learned that they had to start building the infrastructure required to sustain and govern themselves as a free people. The Israelites had just left a place where the rules were made for them because they were slaves. But now that they were on their own, they needed to govern themselves. The first thing they needed to know was how big the community was. How many Israelites were traveling together? It was important because if they were to start a new society, they'd need to know how many members they had. This would in turn help them know how many resources they would need, how many able workers they had, and how to fairly govern the people in order to build a strong civilization. So they decided to take a census. From this portion, we learn a number of important themes that I want to talk to you about today: autonomy, identity, and remembering what it feels like to be a stranger. In terms of autonomy, they had to be self-sufficient, bring themselves up from the ashes that was Egypt, and build a functional society to live in. They had to build a community in order to self-govern and flourish in the desert and beyond. The Israelites also had to build a strong sense of identity so they could have a moral compass and a point of strength for themselves to move on together into their new lives. And the Israelites living as strangers in a strange land would ultimately make compassion for strangers an important value in Judaism today. It makes us strive to be allies because of what our ancestors had to go through and all the hardships our people have known. Like the Israelites, as I become independent, I am also exploring my identity. Exploring my identity has been a centerpiece of my education at my school, Live Oak. My teachers have always taught me to have a strong sense of who I am and where I feel like I belong. They have taught me that difference is valued and that feeling happy with who you are is one of the most important things to have in life. Well, first, I have three cultures that are a part of me. I'm Jewish, American, and Japanese. Judaism has always been a very important part of me and who I am. I value the fact that Judaism has helped me build my own moral compass and my ethical view on a lot of things. As for the American part of me, it's where I live, what language I speak, and what I eat. But one value I have learned that I do find important for my American identity is equity, making sure all people get what they need. The Japanese part of me has always been a part I feel very proud of. I remember always writing down half Japanese whenever we did a collage or poem about identity at school. One Japanese value I really need to work on is patience. I believe it's very important to give others time because they are busy too. I strive to be more patient because I know it has not been one of my strengths. But it isn't always easy to be proud of having a Japanese identity, thanks to anti-Asian racism in this country. My mom immigrated to this country when she was 3. She tells me stories about how it was hard for her because she was different growing up in the Midwest. It's challenging adjusting to living in a new country where you don't always feel welcomed. My mom and her parents experienced discrimination like the Israelites. And as a result, I've learned from both sides of my family what it feels like to be a stranger. So for me as an American, I realized that one way I can promote equity in this country is by using this lesson from the Torah treating the stranger kindly, to be an ally. The discrimination and hardship my ancestors and family members experienced when embarking on a new life in a new land is what inspires me to be an ally to immigrants and refugees in this country. As part of my bar mitzvah prep, I've decided to be an ally, take the lessons from my Torah portion, and try to make a difference. A bar mitzvah project is a service project and is a way to show that you are becoming a responsible person who cares about your community. I decided I should educate myself about the needs of newcomers. I started to see parallels between what is happening now and what happened with the Israelites wandering through the wilderness, trying to build a new life for themselves. I realized that today's immigrants and refugees are also leaving something they have known for so long and trying to build a new life in a new and unfamiliar place. I felt a sense of urgency in addressing this issue, that something must be done. So I thought, what could I do to bring other people in, increase awareness about the current situation the immigrants and refugees face in our country, and serve as a call to action to encourage people to do what they can to be allies. I decided to make a website tying all these pieces together, KaiDenmark.com. Go check it out. Treating the stranger kindly is one of the fundamental values in Judaism and is one of the ways I can help others in a meaningful way. I hope you will join this effort too. On KaiDenmark.com, you can find information so that you can learn about the issues that immigrants and refugees are dealing with as they try to enter the United States. You can also write a letter to an elected official and advocate for change. Be a change maker, as we always say at Live Oak. And you can donate money to HIAS or items to JFCS East Bay, which are both amazing organizations that help support new immigrant and refugee families. In terms of item collection, I'm running a collection drive. More details can be found on my website under the support section, but it started April 15th and ends at the end of May. So if you have items you can donate, please consider doing so. Studying for my bar mitzvah has been a great opportunity to learn more about what the Torah teaches. As I started to grow up, my perception of Judaism changed for me. It started in 5th grade when I began attending studio. Studio really opened my eyes to the depths of Judaism. It showed me that there was meaning behind the fun holidays I love so much. I also really enjoyed learning about the stories of the Jews and the ethics that underlie Judaism. All this and more led me to decide that I wanted to have a bar mitzvah. I knew my dad had always wanted me to have one, but that's when I decided for myself. I wanted to have this ceremony so I could truly become a full-fledged member of this community. I really relate to the people at Shereth Israel, and I really appreciate the fact that this community places so much emphasis on the ethical views in Judaism. So thank you, Studio and Shereth Israel, for inspiring me to grow into Judaism and nurturing me on this path. In later chapters of my life, I know I will always remember this special moment. I'd first like to thank Cantor, Glaser, Rabbi Phelps, Rabbi Graf, and Natalie Wiseman. I also want to thank my classmates from school and in studio for just being awesome people. I especially want to thank my grandmother, Amma, for supporting me, my aunt Sami, who has always been like a second mother to me, and my uncle Thor, who has always been a strong figure in my life. Also, my grandfather Papa, who recently passed, always inspired me. And I can't conclude without mentioning my mom and dad, who are the best, most awesome people I know. Thank you to my sister for being amazing, if not a little annoying. And thank you all so much for supporting me by coming here to celebrate with me today. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Kai. Extraordinary to hear the reflectiveness and the clarity of your thinking in your words. And it's so inspiring to hear that. And also, I just want to point out, I put your website in the chat. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, please click on it. Please take a look. It really is an extraordinary piece of work that Kai has put together. And the work he's doing to support refugees is beyond laudable. And if you can participate in it in any way, please do. You have done such an extraordinary job already, Kai, reading from the Torah, blessing the Torah, giving us your own words of interpretation of Torah. So you have one more opportunity to teach us now. Every Torah portion is paired with a reading from the prophets, with some prophetic teachings that express exactly the kinds of ethics that, Kai, you've come to value through your studies of Judaism. So now is your opportunity to read to us from your Haftarah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'Torah uveMoshe avdo uveYisrael amo uve'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek v'haya mispar b'nei Yisrael kechol hayam asher lo yidmar ve'lo yisafer v'haya bimkom asher yamer lahem lo ami atem yamer lahem b'nei Elhai v'nikbetu b'nei Yehuda u'b'nei Yisrael yachda v'samu lahem rosh ehad ve'alu min haaretz ki gadol yom Yisrael imru la'ahem lo ami ve'lo ahotehem ruhama ve'eras tifli leolam ve'eras tifli b'tzedek uve'mishpat uve'hesed uve'rachami ve'eras tifli ve'emunah ve'yadat et Adonai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzor kol haolamim tzadik b'chol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh ha'medaber u'makayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'nevi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לה ומברכים אותה יתברך שמה בפי כל תמיד לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Really awesome, amen. And we sing Simon Tova, Mazel Tova, Mazel Tova, Simon Tov, Simon Tova, Mazel Tova, Mazel Tova, Simon Tov, Simon Tova, Mazel Tova, Mazel Tova, Simon Tov, Yehelanu, 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 ולכל ישראל, יהי לנו, יהי לנו, ולכל ישראל. סימן טוב, מזל טוב, מזל טוב, סימן טוב, סימן טוב, מזל טוב, מזל טוב, סימן טוב, סימן טוב, מזל טוב, מזל טוב, סימן טוב, יהי לנו.
Oh, amazing, Kai. You have showed so much incredible dedication and knowledge and depth today in everything that you've taught us. And now you get to relax a little because we get to celebrate you. So congratulations. The first thing that we're going to do as part of our process of celebrating you for the incredible Jewish young man that you are becoming is we're going to give you an opportunity to have a special private blessing from Rabbi Graf. You and your family and she will go into a breakout room for a few moments so that she can share some words of blessing with you, and we will remain here in the main room and enjoy some music while we await your return.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד לדור ודור נגיד גודלך לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה לדור ודור נגיד גודלך לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ברוך אתה אדוני האל
Welcome back. We get to continue to publicly celebrate you now. You should know that there are a couple of gifts that are being presented to you, one from the Board of Trustees, one from studio. I don't believe you have them in your home quite yet, so you can't hold them up and show them off, but I promise you they are forthcoming. And so for the first presentation of a gift and of a congratulation, we have our temple president, Lindsay Bronig.
Hi, I am so proud of you. I have known Kai since he was 2, and he and our oldest son were in preschool together. And I have to tell you, we just sat here all day today and said, oh my gosh, he is killing it out there. Like, he is rocking this. He is awesome. We are so impressed and so proud of you. And that's on a personal note. On a Board of Trustees note, it's always is one of the great joys of being a member of the board that I'm more aware of the life cycle events, and so I come to a lot of them, and I love it so much, and I love it because I love seeing the families sort of come together and celebrate the child, but also because our community really comes together at these events, and you can see it today with. We have your friends and your family and our preschool community also, and then a lot of people from just the general Share with Israel community. And I love that. And especially following on last night's confirmation, which I just loved. It's always one of my favorite nights of the year. And just seeing, how important Share with Israel has been to all of those, I guess they're still maybe kids, young adults. Anyway, it's just really, it's heartwarming. And I hope, Kai, that that you and Ike and all of your other studio classmates will be continuing, and we'll get to be celebrating you at confirmation in a few years. Anyway, on behalf of the board and on behalf of the Bronigs, Mazel Tov, you just did such a wonderful job. We're so proud of you.
Thank you.
Well, and I have the honor of saying a few words on behalf of Studio at Shereth Israel, our education program, and on behalf of the youth programs in general. Kai, I have not known you since you were 2, but I've known you for as long as I've known just about anybody at this congregation. And I got a really good sense early on of how serious and committed and studious a person you are, because I remember that I was inviting your cohort to come to a retreat for B Mitzvah students, and you couldn't come because if you came, you would miss a day of Japanese school and you would ruin 7 years of perfect attendance, which, first of all, astonishing. And I think you now have, I don't know, what, 10 years of perfect, something like that. Is it 10 years now, perfect attendance?
Well, I mean, it's not open, so I guess.
Yeah, so it still counts.
Yeah.
But you know, it was clear right away of all the reasons a person could have for not coming on a retreat. I thought, well, this is a very good reason. And this is clearly somebody who's very serious about understanding himself, understanding the cultures from which he comes, and bringing them to the world, being an educator about them as well, being an ambassador. And you've demonstrated all of that so incredibly today. And you managed to do all of it while still being, you know, a fun, goofy, jokey human being. You have the seriousness and the playfulness, and you balance them so well together. It's just been such a pleasure to get to know you. So on behalf of Studio, thank you for joining our program. Please stay in it. I look forward to getting to teach you in the future with our teens. And we offer you a copy of Pirkei Avot, an illustrated copy. It's sort of a graphic novel version of the wisdom of our ancestors. So that's something for you to open up and enjoy once it gets to you. And congratulations, you've just done an incredible job, and I look forward to seeing how you continue to grow as a human being and as a Jew and a leader in our community.
Thank you.
And I think, speaking of your sister, I think that she now has some words that she'd like to offer to us. So Mia, please come on up.
So my brother doesn't know what I'm actually doing. Siblings, you and me. Why do we fight so much? Every day since I was born, you helped. You helped me when I was 1, you helped me when I was 2. But why do we fight so much? I think this every day. The question with many answers. The one that came up most was love. Love. Think of that short word with so much meaning. When you're very close, you fight a lot. Same with you and me. It may be because I know you so much. Or one of us is mad and takes it out on the other. Sometimes you say a point of view I never thought of. I see the world differently. Maybe because I look up to you or I trust you. I don't know, but what I do know is that I love you.
Thank you, Mia. You are a brave sister. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kai's parents to say some words of blessing themselves.
Okay, well, I will start, and I'm going to start the speech with an apology to you, Kai. You can sit down if you'd like, because you've been standing and being, you know, center stage for a long time. So why? Why am I apologizing to you? Because as you diligently practice chanting your Torah portions and blessings, drafted countless versions of your Dvar Torah, and wrote numerous emails to organize and coordinate your bar mitzvah project, you kept checking in with me to see how my speech was coming along. You would tentatively ask whether I'd started writing my speech, and my response was inevitably and disappointingly, no. I imagine I added to the anxiety and stress that was building up in you. So Kai, I am sorry if I made these weeks leading up to your bar mitzvah more difficult with my procrastination. You and I are alike in so many ways that bring us close together and drive each other mad. But in this one regard, we are very different because you never procrastinate. I am grateful that you did not take after me in this way. The reason I've been putting off writing this speech is that I've been filled with both eagerness and dread as I contemplated writing a speech that rises to the occasion of this very important day. One that is supposed to capture who you are, how I feel about you, and what I hope for your future as you take this momentous step towards the next chapter of your Jewish life. There's so much I want to say about all of the wonderful treasures I see in you, all of the excitement I have in witnessing the person you're becoming. But I find myself worrying that my words won't do justice to the feelings you evoke in me. For those of you who may not know, Kai and I have a shared love of words and stories that runs very deep. One of my most cherished moments with you has been the time we spent together reading books before we say goodnight to each other. There was a period after you started reading on your own that I stopped reading to you at night, but we resumed this ritual at the start of the pandemic, and I'm so glad that we did. There's something about exploring a fictional world and the characters who inhabit it together, a bonding that takes place as we go on these narrative journeys together. These stories are also a wonderful way to explore what goes on internally in the deep recesses of your heart and mind, but from a safe distance. Observing the way you respond with empathy for the characters, express indignation, sadness, or hope for others less privileged than you, and have so much curiosity and wonder about the world, fills me with pride and awe. This kindness or good-heartedness, as a former teacher once noted about you, is something that many people have commented on over the years. This observation about you is so heartening to me because this is one of the qualities that I value most in people. We need more good-hearted people in this world to combat hate, reach across differences, and work in solidarity to repair our fragmented communities. It therefore came as no surprise that after some deliberation, you chose to focus your Bar Mitzvah project on increasing awareness about the challenges that immigrants and refugees are currently experiencing and wanting to support them as they try to build a new life for themselves in this country. On a more personal level, I've experienced your kindness myself recently, where you put your needs aside and gave me permission to focus on mine by reminding me, you do you, Mama. It may have seemed like an insignificant moment for you, but for me, it opened my eyes to how much you've matured and have cultivated your kindness and consideration for others. Ever since we welcomed you into our lives, we've watched you grow and mature at an amazing pace. It is so true that when you're raising a child, the days are long, but the years are short. This past year has been a period of incredible growth for you, although it may not seem that way because of the way time has been distorted by the pandemic. This has been a year of rolling with the punches, of flexibility and resilience, on top of which you started preparation for your bar mitzvah. Although it has not been easy at times, you have shown some true grit in rising to the challenge and preparing for this day. I truly believe that this process you've gone through in preparing to become a bar mitzvah has been an incredibly challenging and enriching experience for you. One that has required you to turn inward and deeply reflect on who you are, what is important to you, and who you want to become as a result of this reflection as you look ahead to your future. It has also honed many practical and essential life skills, such as time management, organization, prioritization, communication, and managing your anxiety. I hope that you will remember this important accomplishment you've achieved and carry this moment forward with you in your life with the confidence that you have the internal strength and tenacity to navigate difficult times and accomplish great things. Words cannot begin to capture just how proud I am of you and of being able to walk alongside you in your journey to becoming whatever you choose to become in your future. I cannot wait to see how your story unfolds.
I don't know how I'm going to follow that up. If you want to sit, you can sit, or you can stand, whatever you're more comfortable doing. Shabbat Shalom. Before I go on, I first wanted to thank all of our friends and family, fellow congregants who are here today. Kai has, as you can all see, obviously worked so hard to get here, and it goes without saying that we are all beyond proud of him. It means so much that each of you is here to support him and witness this important milestone in his life. As I was trying to figure out what to say to Kai, I was unable to come up with anything that even remotely resembled eloquent or profound. I had all of these beautiful phrases and profound insights swirling around in my brain, and I was unable to come up with the words that would sufficiently express the combination of pride I am feeling and the lessons I wanted to make sure Kai holds in his heart as he embarks on this next chapter of his life that will lead him to manhood. As I agonized and tortured myself to come up with the perfect words, I was also working on a compilation of photographs to share with you all that tell the story of Kai's first 13 years. And in doing this, I simultaneously realized what I was doing wrong and how to articulate the first piece of wisdom that I needed to share with him. So what is that first piece of wisdom, you might ask? Don't force it. I'll explain. Sometimes you are working on something and it's not feeling right. You become anxious, even panicked. You are working and working, you are tired, and you are not making any progress. In these situations, it's always the right answer to not force it. Get a good night's sleep, take a break, come back to the problem with a clear head. Solutions always present themselves with the perspective gained from a good night of sleep. In my case, the rest of what I needed to share with you became clear as I was building the slideshow we're about to share. It turns out that I did not need to agonize over the words, as they would flow as easily as I was able to follow the story of your life and the images we are all about to see. A few more thoughts and then we can wrap up the ceremony and start the show. Okay, so number one, Kai, your sister loves you, and I know you love her too. Treasure her company, defend her, enjoy her humor, and never forget the special place she holds in your life. Number two, there is so much love in our lives. We are surrounded by an incredible group of family, friends, classmates, and teachers who have each in their own way helped to shape who you are becoming. Each one of these people is a blessing. Never forget any of them. Be continually grateful and always treasure each and every one of them. Never, ever, even for a minute, take any of them for granted. 3, you know who you are. Don't ever forget that and let other people tell you who they think you should be. 4, and this is the last one, I promise, it'll be over. Finally, life is short, and it's not worth living if you don't find a way to enjoy it. The images we're going to share with everyone prove that through all the bumps in the road, we found a way to enjoy our lives together. I was reminded of all of the family trips and birthday parties, Thanksgiving dinners, silly moments, and class field trips we enjoyed together. These are the important things in life and are the moments you will hold in your heart. Work hard, do good work that you can be proud of, and never forget to create time for the relationships and good times that will ultimately be the only things that give you joy. Okay, that's enough wisdom for one day. So I'll just say one more thing. My son, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. And for everyone out there, I'd encourage you to stay after the ceremony to watch the slideshow that inspired me to write this and reminded me of what truly matters in life. All of you.
Beautiful words. As you suggested, Andy, we're nearing the end of our service. We're going to offer a few more prayers, and then we'll have the opportunity to keep celebrating Kai through this beautiful slideshow you've prepared. Before we do that, though, I know you all just sat down comfortably, but I want to invite everyone to rise one more time. We're going to recite together the Aleinu prayer, the prayer in which we remember that it is on us, it is our responsibility to make the world into a perfected place. And Kai, you have demonstrated that you are hard at work on this exact project. So please join us in the Aleinu.
Aleinu. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may go ahead and be seated once more. At this time, our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and every nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. Today, on this Shabbat, we remember for Shloshim, for the first 30 days of mourning, Sigmund Sig Freeman and Carol Hemingway. If you are observing Shiva or Shloshim, the first 7 or 30 days of mourning for a loved one, please feel free to share their names in your homes or in the chat. The perpetual memorials in our community are Dr. Elliot Eisenberg and Judith M. Escalante Melvin. And on this Shabbat, we also observe the following yahrzeits, the anniversaries of death. We remember Henrietta Michal Abir, Bruno Abramovitz, Natalie P. Allen, Lisa Cheryl Barth, Solomon Burke, Sam Birnbaum, Joseph Boxer, Brandon Aaron Breyer, Rosalind Brock, Esther Corin, Samuel Fell, Lenore Anderson Feynman, Joseph G. Grossman, Elsie Handler, Delmar Kolb, Frederick Linder, Carolyn Mervis, Max W. Phillips, Hannah Reisfeld, Diane Ross, Doris Sperber, Oleda Thomas, Benjamin P. Weiner, and Jack Wine. To those names, we add any names of loved ones whom you are remembering today. In honor of all of those whom we have lost, we join together for the Mourners Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'alam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. May the one who creates peace on high bring peace to us and to all Israel. And together we say, amen. Now, before we conclude our service, we have a moment for announcements. Do we have announcements to share?
A few. First, I want to say a giant mazel tov to you, Kai, and your extended family and those visitors to Congregation Shereth Israel who are joining us from, I don't know who's farthest away, perhaps around the world. Do we have anybody in Iceland or Japan or any other countries abroad is joining us?
Well, we have people that came from Japan, but they're here.
They're not coming in from Japan. So Mazal Tov, and we're so proud of you and so excited to be able to share this day with you. And we actually have a bar mitzvah next weekend. I hope you will all join us. We have an afternoon bar mitzvah for Zachary Camille, who actually happens to be Ashkenazi Jewish and Japanese as well. So Yuka, if you did not put them in your new little chavurah, they should join you guys, another family with a wonderful blended ethnicity that's similar to the ones that you're gathering for your new affinity group. We also have our annual meeting coming up, and I will let our executive director, Gordon Gladstone, give us details about that.
Oh, okay. Well, fine.
I'll do the fun announcements. You do the business.
Oh, I see. I see how this is working. Well, so the congregation's annual business meeting will be on May 25th. Information is on the website. We invite you to join us, not only so we can make quorum, but it's an excellent way to learn about what's going on in the nuts and bolts of the congregation. And with a little bit of luck, fingers crossed, and the toes, it might be one of our last virtual events. So for no other reason, you wouldn't want to be, miss the last thing we ever do on Zoom. So with that, Rabbi, back to you.
Cantor?
No announcements, just Mazel Tov, really taken this study in so beautifully. And those last two verses of Haftarah that you read, actually, you learned your Haftarah, and then we had some time, and so you did not hesitate to learn extra Haftarah. And this, the Eres Tichli Haftarah is actually part of our wedding liturgy and talks about how you become wedded to the people Israel. And it's a beautiful sentiment that you will be wed through righteousness and justice with goodness and mercy. And I think you've shown all of that today through your values and through your speech and through your hard work. So Mazel Tov, very exciting.
We'll conclude with Od Yavo, peace will yet come to us. And through the kinds of works that you've taught us about, Kai, peace will indeed come to our world one day if we continue in our efforts to bring it about. So Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, peace will come to us.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So this concludes the formal service